Red man's got red blue. After work, I go home. Make myself a drink. Grab a glass, a few ice cubes. Walk on over to the sink. My old lady.
Say hello and welcome to Let's Talk Native. It is March 9th, 2018. And again, I want to welcome you to Let's Talk Native on the LTN Radio Network. This program breaks all the rules for Native radio. No buffalo speeches, no special Indian prayers, no mystic healing. We tackle the real issues facing Native people. We'll look back at our glorious and our grave history, a tough look at where we're at now, and a look forward to our ongoing battles for sovereignty and autonomy. Let's Talk Native is produced in association with Iroquois Promotions on the LTN Radio Network. Streaming live from the Cattaraugus territory of the Seneca Nation and simulcast and rebroadcast on the Gway. That's CKWE in Tandanega. You can find us at www.ltnradionet.com. And that's where you can find us. You can actually find stuff streaming all the time there. So that's the good news. Look, I know that I've been off for a little bit. Hey, hold on just one second. I got a volume issue here. All right. Sorry, I'm running the board here by myself today. We've cold is going around. I've got a little bit of it. My cohort is usually in studio with me. Jake is out ill, and I know we've been gone for a while here between mourning loss of a dear friend, and I may talk a little bit about that today, but not too much. But then we got hit by that storm. That storm wiped us out. We had every intention of running a show that we couldn't run because we were out of power for several days, and then we did finally run the 2-hour special program featuring Sugar Montour and Murray Porter on Monday. So here we are on Friday, and we are at the later times live. And I gotta make an admission here. There's a very, very specific reason why I am doing these shows from 10 to 11 instead of 9 to 10. And look, I hope it's not too much of an inconvenience to anybody, but I'm gonna be honest with you. This is the reason. My grandson plays basketball, and he plays basketball in Pennsylvania. And in order for me to catch his junior high basketball games, I couldn't make it if we started at 9. So I just trudged through not the best weather in the world. Drove all the way down to Eldred, PA, to watch my grandson. I think he might have been the high scorer tonight, and they won easily. And again, I'm very proud of all my grandchildren, but he's the one leading the pack, coming out, getting involved in sports and in the way that he does, and I try to do everything I can to make his games, because he is he and his sister are the grandchildren that live the farthest away. So the reason I've shifted from 9 to 10 to 10 to 11 for this month is to try to accommodate. I know it may sound silly to some of you, but for those of you who know me, and for those of you that that I've watched with your own kids and grandkids, you can appreciate me shifting my time schedule just so I can accommodate my grandchildren. Hey, I guess I should introduce. I've been gone for a while. I guess I should introduce myself. I am John Kane. I am the Let's Talk Natives host and producer. As I mentioned, I am solo in studio today. I opened the show with Res Blues, as I do quite often, and we are simulcast, or I should say, live streaming on Facebook. So I will try to look for your comments during the breaks. It's hard for me to do all these things at one time. So if you post a comment and I don't get to it right away, please be patient. Even if I may even comment after the show. I mean, these the videos of my radio shows get more views and are oftentimes listened to more after the fact than they are actually live. I'm glad to live stream it though, because just like live broadcasting on the internet through my LTNradionet.com. Doing this Facebook live streaming is really an opportunity to kind of hear that I am doing live radio, and I prefer to do live radio over recorded segments, just because you get more of the spontaneity, even when it's just little old me here in the studio. So anyway, so I want to just set up, recover a little bit from being gone for essentially three normally scheduled broadcast times, and to thank you for your patience. And if there's one thing that has come out of even the loss of my good friend Sugar Montour, and there's a lot of things that sink in when you lose somebody who's a friend of yours, a contemporary, in particular, somebody who's younger than you, significantly younger than you, I would add. Sugar was only 45 years old. I'm going to be 59 this year. So, as much as I worked with Sugar and we were contemporaries, oftentimes even when we worked together, we were paired up even when we were the dialogue team, because we were the two younger ones of the dialogue team, where Sugar's father, Gagwe Lagerdu, or Art Montour, and Paul Delarone, they were more the seasoned veterans, and we were kind of the young guns. Ironically, I was almost as close as in age to his father as I was to Sugar. But one of the things that sinks in when, because only back in October, the very end of October, that we lost Sugar's father, Gagwe Lagerdu, and he was an important figure in dialogue team and a lot of the tax battles and that kind of stuff. And now to have lost Sugar, it clearly puts you in touch with your own mortality, first off. And it raises concerns. It raises concerns about things like, who's going to be left to carry on and that kind of stuff. And, I worry about all my friends, and the health of all my friends, not just, most of my friends are older than me. So that makes it, first and foremost, a concern. And of course, we all have family and loved ones and that kind of thing that we are concerned about. But, as I see the sorrow that everybody has felt and the sense of despair, not just for the loss of a friend or a family member, but the loss of people who have been so powerful in advocacy and activism and being a voice, it's easy to get frustrated. And I saw that frustration in Sugar. I see that frustration in many people that I work with on a daily basis, that sometimes it just feels like, man, we're pounding our head against the wall. So what I want to do with this show here, I want to talk about the hope. I want to dispel some of that despair. I want people to realize that we have great opportunities in front of us. And yeah, we have obstacles. We're going to fight the state forever, and we're going to fight the federal government forever. But there are certain things that are turning a little bit. And I don't mean just turning, recently. I think the role that many of us have played, and I'm not just crediting, Sugar and Art and Paul and myself. I'm not trying to narrow it down to that smaller group. But when I look at what I've seen in my lifetime, the changes, even if it's not completely correct, the notion of fighting for sovereignty, the notion of resistance, I want to talk about that. And I want to encourage people to continue to resist, because, a good friend of mine once told the powers that be within the Seneca Nation Education Department that we need to raise the next generation of activists. And that was received almost with alarm. Like that was some terrible thing to suggest that we need to, place on our children. And I couldn't agree with him more. I've seen what our generation, the folks that were, somewhat older than me and some of the younger ones, that have come up after me. I've seen some of that stuff take root with people. And we really, really, really need to embrace that. And we need to encourage it. We need to encourage our young people to question. Yes, question authority. Not just state authority and federal authority, but even native authority. I'm not saying that we got to teach belligerence and disrespect and, promote a revolution. I'm not saying we don't, but I am saying we need to promote the idea of questioning and the willingness to resist. And I'm not just talking about this in the wake of Standing Rock. I mean, to me, that's an example. That's an example of a resistance that was demonstrated, but in many ways, kind of lost its focus. It got separated into prayer circles and the allies who are pushing the issue, even the veterans that came, the role that they played. But it wasn't what I would say was as clear an effort of solidarity and resistance in the way that it could have been. And it would have been more effective. I mean, I hate to remind people, but we failed in Standing Rock. The pipeline got built. It went under the river. It's got oil flowing through it. And for all those who said, oh, it was the prayer circles and we need to demonstrate that we are a peaceful, prayerful people. Look, I have no problem demonstrating that we're peaceful. But don't mistake peacefulness and those who strive for peace with people who are unwilling to fight. That's not the same thing. In Ganazadage, when they wanted to expand a golf course onto our lands, we resisted. And you know what? We resisted with weapons. We fought back. We shot back. And we stood up. We stood up not only to the SQ, we stood up to the RCMP, we stood up to the Canadian Army. And, was it a perfect victory? No, absolutely not. Look, our people got hurt. They got beat up. They got, terrorized in many different ways. But you know what? Didn't build a golf course. Now, can we follow that exact roadmap? I'm not sure that we can. But there's lessons that should be taken from that and lessons that should be taken from Standing Rock. And neither one of those two should discourage us from resisting. There's a lot of language that has changed over the years. We're not as quick to let people call us Indians. I know there's lots of people who still use the word. I mean, I screen Rumble. And, of course, what's the name of the Rumble film? The Indians Who Rock the World. Yeah, not the title I would have chosen. But I understand that is in the lexicon. But don't call me an Indian. And, in fact, don't call me a Native American. You can take that second word right out of there. You can call me Native. But more than anything else, I'm just another human being with a distinct culture from the occupiers, the ones who predominantly occupy our lands. So, but that language has changed. Seneca Nation is thinking about dropping the word Indians off their name, and they've kind of been going through that process. Many of our territories have our language on the signs now. Many of our territories. That's new. We don't even accept the idea of calling our communities reservations. It's still on the maps and there's still some signs up there. But we're moving away from that language of repression and submission. Are we doing things institutionally as quickly as we should? No, we aren't. The tribal governments are the last ones to move. It's the people who advance this stuff first, as it should be. I mean, we still have a lot of problems with the speed with which, quote unquote, tribal government. And when I say that, I mean so-called traditional government, elected government, appointed government, all of that stuff. It's all. There's not a one of them that I think satisfactorily represents their people. And you know what? And I got to go back to this because that's part of the frustration. Look, I see it in people's faces. In every community I go to, the frustration they have with the people who are, quote unquote, federally recognized as their leadership and how poorly they are serving their own people. And it's not even just about federal recognition. That's where they ultimately get some power from, especially when people resist their own, quote unquote, tribal government. And I don't use the word tribe. That's another word that I don't like. Don't ask me what tribe I'm from. I'm not from a tribe. I'm a people. I'm from a people. But so when I use the word tribal government, I do mean it in a derogatory sense because that's what they are. They are these primitive, limited, certainly not sovereign. Sovereignty is invested in those quote unquote tribal governments, band councils, traditional councils, men's councils, elected councils. No, the sovereignty is not vested there. It's vested in us as a birthright. And more people are awakening to this. That's a word they use. They use that, a variation of the word that says, got woke. And I'm seeing people across all different segments of society who are becoming woke. And I'm encouraged by it. Because, these are not our individual singular battles. These are battles we all face. So when Black Lives Matter rises up, man, I'm with them. I don't know, more rekindles again, I'm there. No DAPL? You bet I'm going to stand up for that. Missing and murdered Indigenous women? You bet. But we need to do more of that. We need to bind ourselves with people. Look, and I don't mean people who have the exact same issues that we do, because we are singularly different. Most people are not fighting for their sovereignty. They're fighting for civil rights, human rights, constitutional rights, the right to bear arms. I mean, most people are fighting for the stuff that the federal government has like a carrot on a stick in front of them. No government ever put our sovereignty on a stick and dangled it in front of us. It's a birthright. It's not something they wield. It's not something that they wrote down in a treaty. It is not a treaty right. It is not a right of international law. It's not something preserved in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. No, none of that stuff. It's ours. It was always ours. And sovereignty is not our defense for carving out our distinction. It's what we defend to carve out our distinction. See, and this is what people are starting to become woke about. From a native standpoint, from a people of color standpoint, we're starting to realize, especially with the election of the moron who sits in the White House today, how much racism is still embedded in the white American culture. I mean, it has been demonstrated to us in ways that maybe many of us didn't think we'd ever see again. And we knew that it was there and that it was below the surface. But now, man, it's not. I wrote an article once called "Latent Racism and Blatant Racism." Well, I'll tell you, latent, by definition, means dormant. And I don't know if that racism was ever really dormant. I think it was, perhaps percolating a little bit below the surface. And Trump didn't make the racism happen. It's the racists who made Trump happen. And then became emboldened by getting their racist president. That's what's happened here. So, but that's not the end of the story. The end of the story, there is no ending to the story. Unless Armageddon really happens or something. But there's no ending to the story. We keep going. The question is, what do we do as we keep going? Do we assert our sovereignty? Do we stand with others who have been deprived basic human rights? Do we kneel with Colin Kaepernick? Do we stand for Standing Rock? Do we march for our women? Do we fight for our children? I mean, these are the questions we have to ask. And you know what? Yes, for all of those. Is everybody going to do it? No, not everybody. And you know what? Maybe it's frustrating because it doesn't seem like those numbers are there the way they should be. And this is where I see, when I see the frustration in people's faces when I say, wow, look how bad things are. Our longhouses are not really where they should be. Tribal government is as corrupt as ever. Hey, look, I've advocated strongly for the second nation. Not because I embrace that system of government, but I've advocated them for them when I think they were taking the right position. And I called them down when I thought they were wrong. But in spite of that, in spite of what I think has been, what I think is I've represented as a strong voice supporting the Seneca Nation and Seneca sovereignty, the Seneca Nation saw fit to take actions against my own family that was totally uncalled for. Now, am I angry about it? Yeah, I am. But you know what? I almost expect it. And nobody's surprised by this, and I wasn't surprised. Really, I guess. But it taught me something. It taught me to not get lulled into a false sense of camaraderie. It's funny, when you're a native kid, and maybe this is true with other people of color, you're always told never trust a white man. Well, I was also told never trust a politician, and it doesn't matter what color the skin is of that politician. It doesn't matter if that politician is white or black or native. Because at the end of the day, people get into office, and that becomes the thing, being in office. I mean, these positions pay well. Even the Seneca Nation, man, those counselors are getting paid $100,000 a piece, 110, 120, I don't know, with expense accounts and stuff like that. When I was being wronged by this, or my family was being wronged by the Seneca Nation, there wasn't a whole lot of people willing to step up to write it, because they were going to have to tackle non-elected positions in the Seneca Nation that could have that could be tied to political consequences. And I say, I'm not trying to pick on the Seneca Nation here. It's the first time I've really spoken of this, and this is something that took place. It was a week and a half before Christmas. This is the way the new year got rung in for my family. But you know what? There's a lesson to be learned here. There's a lesson to be learned about how the tail can wag the dog. I didn't always know what that meant. Tail wagging the dog. And that's what happens when what you think are the people in charge and have authority, they start being manipulated by something else, by something perhaps they created, the gaming industry, the bureaucracy associated with the gaming industry, the relationship that they have with the federal government, their federal recognition. All of a sudden, that tail is wagging the whole dog. And that exists in every one of our territories. But, again, I know I can sound really down and depressing on this stuff. But more and more people see it. And eventually, people will stand up and resist it. And you can see it. It's in the air. But, it's not the big things. I remember several years ago, one of my good friends, his son, said, why don't we just take out all these tribal councils? The whole quote unquote warrior society. Why don't we just man up and take them out? And I said, no. Why don't we make them irrelevant? When we see that there's something that is not being done, addressing the drug issue, addressing the suicide issue, addressing poverty, addressing abuse, violence against women, then we step up. And I don't mean we. I'm not talking about words. I'm saying the people, men and women, aunts and uncles, nieces and nephews, mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers. All of us step up. No, and it doesn't even take all of us. It only takes some of us. And we have the opportunity to do that. It's the small things. It's the baby steps. Help one child. Build one building. Plant one garden. Build one chicken coop. Show that we can affect and change the quality of life and improve our circumstances. Now, I'm not just talking about, let's figure out how we can make more money. Because, if you can make X amount of dollars in 40 hours, with 40 hours of work, how much can you make with 80 hours of work? And that's what we do. Next thing you know, That's all we do because the only thing that's motivating us is the paycheck. The cigarette industry has gone this way. The gaming industry has gone this way. From a native standpoint. But through it all, there are those moments that I see people helping each other. With my friend passing away, his funeral was well attended, and his 10-day feast was well attended. I had the opportunity to see friends I hadn't seen in a long time. Yeah, we all got old. I joked about how old everybody got until I walked by a mirror and realized I did too. But we still have things to do. We still have to resist what is being imposed upon us. And some of that resistance may be, people who look just like us. And I'm not saying we got to fight them. I'm not talking about creating, more factionalism in our territories. I'm just saying we have to resist being suppressed by that and oppressed by that. And, as we set examples and we create whatever it is, again, a different lifestyle. As we create things that have been in need for a long time, but nobody else has bothered doing, we set the example. And, and who better to involve in this than our young people? Because our young people are not satisfied. They sure as hell aren't satisfied with what we've done. Look, I know they don't fully understand how much my generation has fought to improve certain things on our territories. Business environment. Yeah, we can take credit for that. But you know what? Chasing the capitalism dream, hasn't exactly worked out for us either. I mean, was it wrong for us to do it? No, but we didn't. We forever forget that when we do these things, decide to sell cigarettes, decide to plug in some slot machines and table games and that kind of stuff. That's not who we are. That was supposed to be a means to an end, another end. And it's the same thing I say about people who get elected on council. The goal isn't to be a counselor. The goal is to do the work of the counselor and to accomplish things in those positions. The goal of gaming was to expand our economic power and to do more with it. That was the goal. The brass ring, the end of the rainbow, wasn't a casino or 2 casinos or 3 casinos or 5 casinos. Everything should have been a step towards broadening our ability to develop our own economy, and perhaps even work away from those things as we went forward, because they aren't the legacy that we necessarily want to create for our children. I remember when the casinos first opened up. My daughter was a dealer, and when she first started dealing, man, it was great. She was making all kinds of tips, and the hourly rate wasn't that high, but they made up for it in tips. And then some things changed, and the luster of it all went away, and so you start a job, and then you start making less money as time goes on. And I'm not blaming it on management or any of that other stuff. I'm just saying it's the nature of the beast, right? New York State's built all these casinos all over the state. Del Lago, Tioga, Rivers. And they're all failing. Now they make money, but they're not even making enough money to fully cover their own debt service. Now they open the big one. The big one's in the process of opening. They've been doing soft opening of this big one, the World Resorts in the Catskills. Bigger than even the ones that any of the Senecas have. It's supposed to be a $1.5 billion, maybe a $2 billion facility when all's said and done. Built by the folks with the deep pockets, Genting Gaming, which is a Malaysian company. Same one that the Senecas borrowed their money from to start theirs in Niagara Falls. Deep pockets, lots of gaming experience, and a limited gaming market. So have we used that means to a different end. That's why I think we got to, again, move away from having that tail wagging the dog. You know, we're at the bottom of the hour, so let me take a break here, and we'll do a little bit of a Logan Stat song, I think. We'll do this, and I'll come right back.
And where it goes, best love I've ever known. And there it goes, right out the window. Should've washed away my sin and done an honest way. Should've vanquished all my demons and broke free from that cage. Cause you deserve a better man, cause you deserve a better plan. You can always find better love if we're running like the river does. Your lover won't deliver trust. You're just running like the river does. You're just running like the river does. Can you feel it? Yeah, yeah. Can you feel it? Yeah, yeah. Should've washed away my sin and done an honest way.
All right, that's Running Like a River Does. That's my buddy Logan Stats. Some good stuff there. And and there's something to be said for that. I hear, people have a lot of different thoughts on things like spirituality and our connection and that kind of stuff. And I know the Senecas are battling this idea of dumping hydrofrac'd water into a waste treatment facility in a little town in Pennsylvania called Coudersport that are at the headwaters of the Allegheny before it comes to Seneca territory. And when the first, the Seneca Nation's first comments that were out there, and I heard President Todd Gates mention that the Seneca people have a spiritual connection to that river. And I thought that comment did a disservice. No, look, I'm not trying to condemn, Todd's words and the intent. But at some point, we better realize what the physical connections are. That to each other, to all of things. It's real easy to ethereally, mention things like a spiritual connection. Oh, I have a spiritual connection with this. I have a spiritual connection with that. Because then you don't have to define it, right? It just it can be nebulous. But I think it's important to talk about the physical connection. Our kids swim in the river. Our kids four-wheel through that water. They fish in that water. That water goes into the Kinzua Reservoir. It's a recreational body of water. Just like with the Cattaraugus Creek up here. And the nuclear waste that is leaching into its headwaters. I mean, look, I open the show the way I do because um, I try not to get caught up too much into native spirituality because there are people who can do that, and if they choose to, and some people are drawn to that, but my point is, I don't think most people are. I think people have become less and less tolerant with the religious views that are being espoused by, the dominant religions of the world. The new age, cultish view that people, and even the way our culture is tried to be embraced by others. And I just love your culture. I love your spirituality. Well, what the hell does that mean? I buried my friend a few days ago, and it wasn't the spiritual connection. It was the physical connection. I can't see him anymore. I can't visit with him. I can't laugh with him. Now, we were connected in a lot of different ways, but it's a physical connection that, the real, tangible, hey, how you doing? Give me a hug. Gonorunkwa. I mean, that's real. And I'm not going to get into debate on how real some of the spiritual connections are. But if not everybody feels it, if not everybody can embrace it, where does it leave them? Does it make them less native? No, it doesn't. Our Indianness, our nativeness is not measured by New Agers' sense of spirituality. What it better be measured by is survivability. And not just surviving, but thriving. What is it that we're going to do? Like I said, look, there are a lot of things to be down about. Climate change, social unrest, racism, economic distress, wars all over the world, militarized police. Yeah, we can look at some of this stuff as insurmountable or inevitable, that it's an inevitable oppression, or we start to do the things. Say, you know what? If people want to kill themselves in Syria, I'm just not going to participate. I'm not going to feed my young boys, my young grandchildren into that military-industrial complex. No, I'm not going to do it. And every young boy or girl who expresses even the remotest interest in doing that, so you want to fight? We can set you up for a fight. But be careful what you're fighting for. And that fight isn't necessarily a violent fight. It's a physical fight. I mean, to resist, to stand up, and not let people ruin our lands and the future of our children. No, it's a real physical thing. It's not a spiritual battle. This isn't something we're going to burn tobacco and pray to the Creator for. Didn't work out too good in Standing Rock, if I recall, or for the last 500 years. I know that's a view my friend Sugar had. And it's a view that I have. So I guess what I'm asking is, who wants to do something? Reach out. Let's get together. I mean, I've got a couple of projects that I plan to work on, including trying to do a tiny home project, doing this. Being a facilitator for conversation, it's important. I'm sitting in a studio by myself here right now tonight. I can have a room full in here, right? I got enough. I got microphones. I got rooms. I got chairs. Come join me. Jump on a train. Come to New York with me. Join me there too. I do a radio show in New York City. I'm the only native voice that's on for 2 hours in one of the media capitals of the world. Come join me. Maybe that's how the torch gets handed off. We need people, and I know you're out there, because a lot of times you guys comment. I know it's easy to just put a like on a Facebook post, but I know you feel it. I know you feel it. I know you feel we have a future. And look, we've got plenty of sellouts in our territories and off our territories. But man, I'll tell you, I sometimes get engaged in conversations in places, whether it's online in these chats or a couple of speakers forums and roundtable discussions that I do, or whether it's some of the events I do in New York City. It's incredible how many people are willing to come out and support something if you had something tangible for them to support. I think we need to organize ourselves. And I'm not saying everybody. Give me a handful of people who want to do something. Do this. Come join me. Is this a golden opportunity for financial success? No, it's not. But you want to lead a movement? It starts with stuff like this. Yeah, we need to propagandize, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but we need to propagandize who we are. We need to talk about our identity and how it's been obliterated by others. And we need to change how we, and the change has already started. Like I said, I see the change in my lifetime. When I was in my 20s, man, there were some really strong, aggressive young men like myself. And not so many of those guys are left anymore. But there's still some of them. But then I look down now, there's younger guys yet. I remember when Sugar was one of those young guys, 16 years old. I just saw a video clip of him in the Gun as a Dog film. Saying the same thing then. 30 years ago. Talking about fighting back. And I know many of you felt pretty strongly about Sugar in a positive way, even if you didn't agree with his, the warrior stuff or the tobacco stuff. But it's all connected. Physically connected. Hey, I want to take just a couple of minutes. I want to thank my sponsors. I want to thank Ross and Holly John and the RJE family of businesses, Eric White and ERW Enterprises. And I'm going to be thanking them for a long time. I'm going to thank Sugar Montour. ERW and RJE and Sugar are the three that really have carried my ability to do this. There's others along the way. Neville Spring, playing that show that I did last Monday. We used to do advertising. You got to hear all the advertisers, that annoying Aaron's Landing ad and others. But it kind of reminded me how many people were supporting the program back then. Not so many anymore. But I know I got ERW and I've got RJE and and the bigger loss from Sugar is not his support of the program. It was the support he gave in other ways. But I want to thank others. I want to thank my friend Ed Schindler, who was on that show, by the way, that I played on Monday. Cynthia Trice. Again, my good friend Neville Spring and others from his family. I've gotten support from Jesse and Nori and others out there in Tonawanda. But I want to thank everybody who helped, even from day one. Guys like Sugar, who helped from day one. I've been doing this for, I'll be going into my 9th year here as we get into summertime. And I couldn't have done it without you guys. And I thank you all for joining in the fight. And, of course, I'm incredibly grateful to the ones who are still supporting what I do. And, and maybe that's the thing is to turn it so they're not just supporting what I do, but more people participate in what I'm doing. Look, I also want to thank Unity Stream and Apache Radio Net for providing our streaming. I want to thank CKWE for the simulcast and the rebroadcast. That's that's the Gwe. That's in Tandanega. I want to thank other radio networks, internet radio networks, and others. I'm Netroots Radio, Real People's Media, Indigenous Resistance Radio, and I want to thank all of you who share the show. My wife, in particular, who especially the Facebook live stream, she shares that to many other group pages, and and that's why we get 1,000 or 2,000 views of the show. I encourage people to also share the SoundCloud audios that I post later, and the YouTube videos that I post later. I keep promising I'm going to do more videos, and I really will. Obviously, it's been hectic between weather and some of the emotional draining that's been associated with some of the other things happening in our lives. I mean, I've got to acknowledge another person who passed away in the wake of Sugar's passing was a fantastic artist, John Thomas, who has captured everything from the Ohundaguri Wadekwa in a single painting to imagery, all kinds of imagery. I look him up. By all means, look up John Thomas and look at the great work that he's done. And he was young too. He was only about my age, a little older than I am. And again, that's what's kind of frightening. And I'm not frightened that somehow my days are numbered. I mean, obviously it could be. But I'm frightened that if we wait to do the things we know we need to do, then we may wait too long. When I was younger, man, it seems like I had all the time in the world. I had 3 little kids at home. Oh, man, I'm going to have things in place for my kids. What happens? My kid goes to work for Seneca Nation and gets fired for no reason. Wasn't exactly what I had laid up, planned out. And if it was, I didn't plan very wisely. Look, I thought we'd have more time. I thought we would all have more accomplished by now. Yeah, people have made money. Billions of dollars in cigarette sales. Billions of dollars in gambling revenue. I mean, we've made all kinds of money. Billions of dollars in gas sales. And I look across the native territories, I've seen billions made up in tar sands oil and Bakken crude, fracking on native territories, oil well drilling on native territories, mining on native territories. But now we start to know better. We start to say, no, we're not going to do that anymore. You get encouraged because you see solar panels going up. Even in Seneca Nation, solar panels down in Steenberg. Wind power up here in Cattaraugus. Across other native territories. We need to do better. But it's not just the big projects. Look, we don't need to build, 100 megawatt solar farms. Throw some on your roof. We don't need to build a 400-foot windmill. Put a small one in your backyard. Or learn to do without it. We need to improve the quality of our life. I've gotten involved in a conversation just the other day with a bunch of friends of mine. Mixed group of friends, black friends, native friends, indigenous people. And the conversation was about excellence, achievement, success of black people, native people. My biggest concern was how we measured that success. And I always come back to the same thing, quality of life. Not something measured in dollars and cents or square footage of a house. Perhaps more accurately measured by a happiness index, if you can really create such a thing. I know countries have done it. But do you enjoy your family? Do you sleep well at night with an absence of anxiety over it? I mean, that to me is, are you comfortable? Are you healthy? Are you happy? And is that happiness spread by you to others who are perhaps less fortunate? That's quality of life, folks. And that's what I want to see improve. Is there a price tag to it? Well, yeah, I guess everything has a certain cost to it, but you're never going to measure it in dollars and cents or man hours or square foot buildings or cubic foot buildings. So my ask in this show is, who are you going to reach out to to improve the quality of your life. I'm looking at your kids and your grandkids. How are you going to begin to secure a future? We fought a lot of battles in my 30 plus years of being involved in Native issues. Man, we fought a lot of battles. And we did. We secured some economic development as a result of those battles. Sure, we did. I'm not sure that we improved the quality of our life, though. Our lives. When I look at the drug problems and the suicide problems, and frankly, what I see our young people struggling with is the sense of hopelessness, that they don't see any real promise for the future. I mean, it's there. I mean, they should see it in spite of us. But we need to help them see it. And we need to help them help themselves create it. But we're probably not doing a very good job creating it for them. I would say we're definitely not. But we need to look at our children and our grandchildren and discover their talents, discover what it is that perhaps they were born to do. I do this because I came to a conclusion that this is what I should be doing. Now, I'm not saying this is the only thing I should be doing. There was a time that I thought, standing side by side and on a front line in a conflict was what I had to be doing. And I did it. And there's a cost associated with that. Nobody got killed around me, but there were those of us who paid a pretty good price for standing up and resisting. But through it all, I can look in the eyes the friends that I've made and the bonds that I forged and the family that I have and the children and grandchildren. I can sit here today knowing that the 9 people who think the most highly of me are my grandchildren. And I think my children are in that mix too. Probably even my wife. And I am happy with my family. Would I like to see more things? Of course. I don't mean things, but would I like to see more in place? And how to spread that so other families are, kind of feel what I feel? Sure. That's what we need to do. And so the ask here again is, who's willing to? And I'm not saying you can text me, you can get a hold of me on Facebook or however you want to get a hold. Well, I'm willing to talk to anybody. Let's develop some plans and some strategies. I know everybody says, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, I don't know. Let's figure it out. Again, I think the thing is we can create obstacles. And we sometimes want to think so big. Wow, we need to build a new community. We did that. Ganyange. And, we've built houses and we've built all kinds of stuff. But I think we take on the big things and we miss the small stuff. I mean, we hear all about school shootings, but we still send our kids to those schools. And we know that schools aren't doing a very good job. I mean, we get the kids home. We got to say, what did you learn today? Well, let me straighten that out for you. Let me tell you what George Washington was, Abraham Lincoln, FDR. Let me tell you some truths. Perhaps they need to be educated the truths first instead of us trying to dispel what they've already got imprinted by. Perhaps someday it isn't the American flag that is the highest held flag on our territories. Perhaps it'll be ours. And whatever that flag might be or will be, should be. Perhaps. But I think that's what we have to work towards. I am not depressed about where we're at. Do I see problems? Sure. But for every one of those problems that I see an opportunity to, if not fix the problem in total, but to chip away at it. And with every chip we make at those problems, there's an opportunity to have some success. That's what Sugar Montour was working for. The Grey Ligero Art Montour was working for. The folks that I've worked with all these years, it was never for casinos. It was never for tobacco. We defended them all. I'm still defending them all. But that's not the work that we're trying to do. It wasn't to raise an army and call it a warrior society. No, it was never that. It was about understanding the responsibilities that came along with being a man in your community. Those are responsibilities that we seem to be missing as we look the other way because our buddy's beating the crap out of his wife or his kids, or running around on her. Those are responsibilities that we have, not just the guy who's being irresponsible. We're being irresponsible too. That was the whole idea of the quote unquote warrior society. It was to create a standard for ourselves. Not the white man's standard. Not the white man's standard for manhood, but our own. And womanhood. And childhood. And how we would treat our elders. That's what the goal was. And, did we accomplish that goal? No, we sure didn't. But, we planted some seeds. And those seeds are still out there. And they're still sprouting. The question is, do we trample over them? Do we shut our kids down? Man, I remember after Gunnels Doggy, one of the things that kids like to do, they were finding old barbed wire so they could stretch it across their driveway like it was the Canadian Army and their Constantine wire. You got a kid, a camel fatigue, set of camel fatigue T-shirts and sweatpants and a roll of barbed wire, and those kids were proud to be who they were. Unfortunately, there were a lot of territories who said, those damn Mohawks, all they want to do is fight. But that spirit is still there. And it's in every one of our territories. That's the spirit I'm talking about. The fighting spirit. The willingness to resist. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is John Kane. This is Let's Talk Native. I look forward to talking to you again on Monday. Yahweh.
How many years must it go on? How many tears must we cry? And how many promises are broken? How many more little white lies? Little white lies, little white lies, little white lies, little white lies. Keep on telling me your little white lies. Keep on telling me your little white lies. Teach your children